Hello, welcome back to a new episode of the podcast. Today we're going to talk about a very sensitive topic, and it's going to be very specific. So, if it's not the kind of talk you want to have, um, it's okay. There will be other episodes. But as you can see from the title, we're going to have a serious talk, like a big sister talk, but not really, because well, you understand. Um, but how old were you guys when you decided, yeah, I'm ready. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it with this person. What made you think this was like the person you wanted to do that with? Like be intimate with, lose your virginity to if you're a girl or a man even, or just be with that person in a more explicit kind of way? Because I'm pretty sure. Okay, a bit of context. I had been with this guy for 2 years, on and off for 2 years. I was almost 18 at the time, and I was like, my frontal lobe is developed enough. I have made this person. No, I didn't make him wait, but we have had the conversation about it. And I was like, yeah, when I'm ready, I'll say it. And I think, like, at the 2 year mark, I was like, I'm comfortable enough with this person that it can happen. So he was my first sexual partner. At the time, I did it pretty safely. Condoms were used, contraceptive was. I was not on contraceptives because I didn't have the conversation with my mother about contraceptives. And my mother, I think, didn't know I was sexually active until I was like 20 or something. But the reality is, and there are studies made of this, when you decide to be sexually active, a bunch of new hormones like become more accentuated. And you will experience stress differently. So I remember the first time, even though I'm pretty sure I did it differently, my period was late and I was freaking out. Like, why is my period late? Oh my God. And things like that. Fun fact, my period is very prone to stress because I'm a very stressed person. I'm a very anxious person. As by the amount of medication I take for anxiety. And it was like that till the end of that relationship, till the beginning of the new one. I'm no longer with the person with that I lost my virginity with. But my period has always been kind of like irregular and very prone to my stress. But I never wanted to be on birth control because my mother had cysts in her breasts, and she had to have several operations to take breast tissue out because of those cysts that were caused by hormones, by contraceptives. She was on oral contraceptives for a very long time. And right now there are studies that say that oral contraceptives are cancerogenic, sorry, which means they are linked to cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer. So that probably is it. But not also my mother, but her mother also was on oral contraceptives and had breast cancer at the age of 70, which could be for a lot of things. But they could say that was hormonal based. So for the longest time, I was like, I'm not gonna be on birth control because I have a lot of cancer risks in my family. Fast forward a few years, I have had 2 sexual partners during my life. Right now, I think 2 is the number. And my period has been really fucked by my stress. For example, my usual cycle is usually 32 days, but there are some months where I have had 50 days. There are other where I have 28 days, which is a bit of a huge gap. And even more recently, for my last 2 cycles, I have had gaps of 70 days. So I was like, okay. I don't like the fact that I'm not seeing blood. I don't like the fact that I'm not seeing my menstrual cycle being regulated as it used to. So I did a bunch of tests. The first cycle where it was very late, turns out I was on antibiotics for a bunch of time because I was sick, because I had a UTI, because then I had an yeast infection. And then because of the yeast infection, I had another UTI, and it was a vicious cycle. And because of that, my thyroid spiked. Thyroid problems are linked to, well, if your thyroid is spiked, for example, I had subclinical hypothyroidism. My period was irregulated, but I also retained a bunch of water. I gained a lot of weight, and it was not. It's for me, most of it. I don't care about my weight. I have come to the point where I know, I'm not easy to lose weight. I struggle a lot with binge eating, and it's a lot of problems that I'm trying to work on. And I always struggled with weight, even when I was a swimmer and I was at the leanest and I was weighing like 60 pounds. I always thought and looked at myself as a fat person. So weight problems are usually, I don't see them as much. Cause I my weight fluctuates a lot. But what I did notice was my period not coming for like 2 months. I was like, well, this is weird. Because unless I'm like Virgin Mary, because once again, I'm in a long distance relationship, I don't see my boyfriend every month. This is kind of weird. So I go to the doctor, and turns out I have subclinical hypothyroidism. And they go, what? You have to wait 3 months so your thyroid goes back to normal, or to see if it's actually hypothyroidism, and you can then test you for Hashimoto syndrome, which is hypothyroidism, very common, not very common, it's commonish in like 23-year-olds or young adults. It's usually when they find out that they have a Hashimoto syndrome. And you can control that with medication, with food, and whatever. So I wait 3 months, I do my blood tests again. Turns out my thyroid decided she was done and she was gonna go back to normal. I was like, thank God. Because when my thyroid also spiked, my cholesterol also spiked because of a bunch of like things. I'm like, they came back to normal. I did my tests. I received them like three days ago. They're back to normal. Great. I went to the gynecologist for the second time in my life. The first time, he was super nice. He treated for my yeast infection. He gave me probiotics. He gave me Genoflor, which is like healthy bacteria for your vaginal flora. He was super nice, and everything was well. The second time I went there, I did not yet receive my hypothyroidism, and he decided he wanted to be no longer a gynecologist, but he wanted to be an endocrinist, the person that gives you the hormones, and he was all ready to put me on levothyroxine, which is like the hormone for hypothyroidism. And but we also, besides that was not very cool of his part, but we had ended up having a conversation about like different types of birth control. And I don't want to have oral contraceptives because, well, those are linked to cancer. I have cancer in my family due to hormones. What are the other options? He straight up said that he didn't want to put a DUI on me, and he did not want to put either the copper one or the hormonal one or the implant because those are very invasive. And the injection was very expensive for someone who was a college student. I was like, fair enough. What are my other options? Because I know there are patches, because I have friends that have patches, and I have friends that have like the ring, vaginal ring. And I was like, and he was like, well, patches is because we live in a very hot country, they're prone to sweat, and the margin, for example, there is statistics made for like perfect use of contraceptives and non-perfect use of contraceptives, and the non-perfect use of contraceptives for like for the patches is really, really, really not that good compared to the perfect use. So we were like, okay, with the ring, they're similar. For like example, one is 98%, the other one is 90%. And I was like, okay, ring it is. So now for the first time ever, I'm waiting for my period to start because that's when you can insert the ring and start like the contraceptive. For the first time in my life, I'm gonna start birth control. But it's not because I don't want to be pregnant. It's because I want to regulate my period. Because he also told me that I might have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which means my ovaries decide to produce cysts. And it makes you gain weight, it makes you lose hair, it makes you emotional, and it makes you have irregular periods. But it also, if you want to get pregnant, it makes you have infertility issues. Which for me, at 23, going, hey, you in like another human body, for a girl, you should get pregnant the youngest as possible because it means you're going to have less complications. But I'm not physically ready to, like mentally ready to be a mother, and I'm in school, so getting pregnant is not really something I want to do at the moment. But being struck in the head with like, you're going to have infertility issues, and PCOS is a thing you can have for life. It was like the one thing that like every person gives you like for granted is like, if you're a girl, you can get pregnant. And now being struck with infertility is like, well, this is concerning. I'm not even sure if I want to be a mother one day. I have a lot of generational trauma that I don't want to pass on. I have diseases that I don't want to pass on. Diseases, no. Disorders? Maybe that's nicer to say, that I don't want to pass on. Like the autism and the ADHD. I don't want my child to struggle with depression like I did. I don't want my child to struggle with the things that I did because of all the things that I am associated with and that is genetically mine. But now this makes me think, oh, life is very, like, it's not sensible, but like, there is a balance, and just one tiny drop can like tilt your whole perspective on the world. And for me, it was like birth control and being not. I'm not officially diagnosed, but he thinks I'm pretty sure I still have to do some blood tests. But because I did some blood tests recently, I have to wait a bit more to do some other words. And it's it's really confusing. But yeah. Also, I have had this conversation with my boyfriend, and it's like he is. There are a bunch of horror stories online about birth control, about like, yeah, my girlfriend started birth control and now she hates me, and my boyfriend is really scared that I'm gonna start hating him once I go on birth control. And for me, it's also kind of scary because it birth control changes like your brain interaction with itself, like the connections, the neurons, the signals. It changes a lot, and I'm like, I don't want to hate my boyfriend. I love my boyfriend, but at the same time, what if that happens? Do I have to put in writing that I do love my boyfriend and I don't want to break up with him? It's a kind of a weird situation. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that it's going to be a new chapter in my life. I don't know if I'm ready for it or not. But for me, having my period like regulated is gonna like mentally ease my brain. And also not having, okay, this is gonna get really TMI. I have had a lot of pregnancy scares in my life. Not because of real danger, but because my brain has somehow twisted that, oh my god, I'm pregnant, even though it's basically impossible. And if you guys don't know, if you think you're pregnant, your brain will trick you into thinking you're pregnant, which makes your period late because you're stressing out that your period is late, so you're pregnant. And it's a whole cycle of stress and not stress, and then stress, and then stress because you're pregnant, and then your period comes late, and then you go, oh shit. And I don't want to have those scares anymore because they truly mess with me. Like, if I think I'm pregnant, I cannot work, I cannot study, I cannot do anything except rot in bed and do nothing. And I'm tired of having those. I'm tired of having to take a shit ton of a pregnancy test and not trusting the results because, well, uh, pregnancy tests are scary because it's like they are only positive if you have an X amount of hormone present in your body, and sometimes atopic pregnancies are not shown in pregnancy tests because the atopic pregnancies are lower in hormone level pretty soon on. Sometimes tests have like different quantities that they detect. Ones are more sensible than others. Sometimes you ovulate wrong. And those are questions I don't want to have in my brain anymore. So I feel like birth control would also answer that because, well, birth control. And I don't know. I think I'm scared, but at the same time, it's gonna help me a lot. It's a new chapter that I feel like every girl is gonna go through at least once in her life, like starting birth control because you found a partner, because you want to be sexually active but you don't want to worry, because It's a whole entire can of worms on its own. But if you do your research, I don't think I did my research. I think I can handle it. And it's not like it's forever. I'll maybe be on it for like till I'm like, okay, I can have kids now. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It's not a very long one. And I will see you next month. Bye. Why did I not stop? Huh?